All right, well, I show 8 o'clock. Good morning, everyone. I'm Mayor Orman, and once a month we do a virtual coffee with the mayor. And this month we're focusing on our fire department and our emergency services program here at the city. And I'm excited to have many of our members of that team with us today. We're going to start with Deputy Chief Kevin Boyston.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Thanks for having us. We certainly appreciate this opportunity. With us today, and I'll have them raise their hand. Of course, we have Captain Todd Pierce with Building and Fire Safety. We've got Battalion Chief Jeremy Metcalf, Captain Vanessa Gutierrez. Also have firefighters Brennan Williams and Connor Hayes with us this morning.
Well, welcome everyone. We also have some special guests that are going to speak a little bit later on our call that have been a part of maybe different programs within the fire department. But Chief Boyston, just get us started. I think you've been with the fire department or in that industry for over 30 years. So tell us how it's changed over the years and where we are today and the current direction of the Bentonville Fire Department.
Sure. I began my service actually as a volunteer, which was encouraged through the corporation I worked with at the time here in Bentonville. But when I first began working as a volunteer here in the city in the early 80s, or actually mid 80s, we had, there was a total of 12 full-time firefighters. They were on 3 separate shifts. And then we had a crew of 32 volunteers. We call them volunteers. You would equate that to a part-time employee. In other words, we would do training with together, and then we would respond on call, so to speak, and the city would pay us for those efforts. As we sit today, we have what we call 103 line staff. These are the personnel that get on the vehicles, on the fire trucks, the ambulance, and they respond to the emergencies. And then we've got another 12 support staff, counting administration and building and fire. So we've made quite a leap from back in the mid 80s where we were a nice sleepy little hamlet to trying to play catch up and meet the needs of the city of Bentonville that we see today.
And I do think that it's called the fire department. We all know it as the fire department and love the fire department, but you do a lot more jobs in the city outside of just responding to fire. So talk to us a little bit about everything that the fire department covers.
You know, that is true. Over the decades that the fire service has been in existence throughout this country, various disciplines have been added. It's pretty dynamic as we look at it today. The Bentonville Fire Department has to meet the need for hazardous materials. We are also the designated city rescuer, which means with our technical rescue team, these folks are well equipped and trained for swiftwater rescues. They also have to do high angle, low angle, confined space, and trench. And of course, you drive around Bentonville these days, there's a lot of trenches throughout the city. And they have to be prepared to address any emergencies that those situations may compromise to us. Also, we do the EMS. We started back in 1984. We were the first fire department in Northwest Arkansas to start an ambulance service back in the 70s. In the early 80s, we were the first ambulance service in Northwest Arkansas to actually go paramedic. And we've been providing those services to the city since then. Where we sit today, we have a staff of over 40 paramedics that deal with our EMS calls. And of course, you have to be at least an EMT in order to obtain a full-time position here with the fire department.
So hearing sort of everything that goes on in the fire department, I want to call you the fire department and EMS department. I feel that that's more accurate for the public to hear, but tell us a little bit how you've seen the department change over the years.
Well, like I said earlier, Bentonville is considerably different than it is now. The fire department really back 40 years ago was a primarily reactive service. However, what we actually want to be is we want to be proactive, such as with the building and fire safety division that we have now. We're real big into public safety. One of the things I like to point out is in this country, we will average 5,000 fires in public education buildings every year. That'll range anywhere from 4,900 to over 5,000. The good news there is you never hear about any injuries or any fire-related deaths when it comes to those fires. And that's all from being proactive and doing prevention with our codes and our activities with the building and fire safety. We will average usually 3 fires a year in our educational facilities here in the city. But being proactive, educating, getting out in the public, and providing those programs is what we really want to do. We love doing what we do, and we're prepared to meet all those needs, but we would really prefer to be in a community that never needed those. And the more we can prevent, the happier we are. So that's been the biggest change, is this fire department turning and being more proactive and getting out in the public and addressing those public education needs.
And I think you're seeing some slides that this talks a little bit about the increased volume on calls that you're seeing in the city. Obviously, we're growing in the city of Bentonville, and so those calls are growing as well. Talk to us a little bit about, you're seeing some video or some pictures of training and some different things that you react to. So talk to us a little bit about the training in the department.
Sure. So, and I'll just refer to some of these photos we see here and the one previous. The tower cranes, whenever you see a tower crane go up in the air, OSHA requires those companies to have a plan. And like I said earlier, we're the designated rescuer for the city. So our technical rescue team will go and meet with the company that is responsible for those tower cranes, meet with them, go over how we will address an issue. We did have, and we have had in a lot of these buildings that are under construction, we do have injuries. Unfortunately, accidents do happen. Beams slip, people fall. And so we, once again, being proactive, we'll get out, and what you see here is just training for those high angle situations. But, you know, if someone has a heart attack or has an injury, we have to have a plan in place in order to extract them and get them to definitive care. So training is a big part of what we do. It takes on average, when we first hire a firefighter, and I said earlier, you know, our minimal requirement is that they be an EMT. We decided about 4 years ago, as the workforce and the job market became tighter and tighter, we sat down as a core group, and we made the determination we were not going to lower our standards. So if we weren't going to lower our standards, how are we going to meet the need of providing fire personnel for this city? And so you do have to have an EMT, but it takes us, once we hire one of those personnel, it's 2 years before they can even drive the fire apparatus. That's how much training is involved. For a technical rescue person or for a hazmat person, it takes about 5 years, close to, on a national average, they say 9,000 hours. But depending upon how much you emphasize it, focus on it, it takes up to 5 years to get someone competently trained in those disciplines. Paramedic, it takes us 3 years to take an EMT and get them through paramedic school with the prerequisites and everything involved. So training is a big part. We'll do over 50,000 hours of training every year. We have to meet training requirements for the state. On the fire side, we have to meet training requirements for OSHA on the hazmat side, as well as the technical rescue side. Those are all guided by those agencies. And when it comes to our EMS folks, the Arkansas Department of Health, sets our rules and regulations, and we have to meet training requirements there as well. So if we're not out in the community addressing an emergency or a need there, you're going to find us somewhere training. And that's why the training tower that is going to be coming out of the ground here in another month was so very important to us.
So lots of training, and that's one thing I hope that the public that's listening to this can hear how much training goes on. But we take life safety issues very seriously in the city. We're also held to very high standards for that, and that's one of the big jobs of the fire department, EMS. And part of that also is having leadership that knows the importance of training and making sure that we are educating the public and making sure that they are doing the things to have safety plans in place and different things. And so I think we have Captain Gutierrez with us. And actually I was in a conversation with the chief, and your name was mentioned about some things that you brought to the table. You're one of our newest captains. So I wanted you to speak to us a little bit about some of the things you're implementing from a leadership standpoint at the fire department.
Okay, so good morning. So as far as leadership goes, what I'm trying to implement is just we have this new generation of employees that are coming in, and we've kind of had to change how we support them and help educate them through this process. I've tried to do some things, just little things to kind of get us closer together as a department, t-shirt contests, build teamwork. It's very important for us to have that teamwork dynamic so we can get through these calls and help these people that need us. And if we're not working together, then it's a little bit harder to have a good outcome.
So I would like for you to speak a little bit about, you're talking about teamwork and working together. So why did you become a firefighter? And do you have some encouragement out there for others that might want to consider this career?
Sure. So when I was younger, I don't remember the age, but my neighbor, her house actually caught fire. And I remember being a little kid watching the fire truck roll up to our next door neighbor's house, and she was inside still. And they went in there and they made entry into the house and drug her out. And when I saw that, I was hooked. I knew that that's what I wanted to do, was help people in their time of need.
Well, we're certainly glad that you've chosen to be part of the Bentonville Fire Department. Keep up the great work. Like I said, your name was actually mentioned in a conversation with the chief about the great things that you're bringing to the table. So we appreciate you being with us this morning, Captain Gutierrez.
Thank you.
Chief Boyston, let's talk a little bit about recruiting and the firefighter development program that we have. Can you tell us what that is, how it works? And I think you may have a couple of individuals sitting there with you that have been through that process.
Sure. But before I do, I want to say Captain Gutierrez is being very humble. In the time since she was promoted, she has taken our standards of excellence, which is a 10-point standard that we have in all stations, and she has exemplified that. The station she's at is a 2-story station. She got stencils, and those standards of excellence and encouragement are painted on each step as you go up through the station. We're real big on unified teamwork here. That's one of our internal mottos. We all have to go together. We all have to be in step. And she also came up with a unique way. You have pride in your station. You have pride in your shift. At the end of the day, we're all together. And she brought forth an idea for each station from all 3 shifts to design their own t-shirt. We had a t-shirt contest that was judged by that. And it really, we need people to get involved, and that's my lead in. One of the big things that we've done here is going back 30 plus years ago, the fire department, at least in the city of Bentonville, was comprised of local people. The bulk were volunteers. And so they worked elsewhere in the city, and they gave their time and effort to assist in times of emergency. And over the years, that's where the bulk of our rank has come from. And if you go back and look at our 20-year plus employees that we currently have, they were virtually 95, 96% of them were actually from the community. They had a vested interest in the community. And so that's one of the things that we really like. We did last year we did a study on this, and our 5-year retention rate is 90%. Our 1-year retention rate is 98.7%. And we feel like a lot of that has to do with the fact that we never relinquished, especially during these times of dealing with the shortage in the workforce, of relinquishing our standards and requirements and things we'd like to see. We have a 2-tiered hiring process. We do advertise now throughout the country. We have firefighters from California, Texas, Missouri, Oklahoma, Kansas, Alabama, Mississippi. But in this hiring process and interviewing process, by maintaining those standards, in our last testing sequence that we had over 50 applicants. And out of those 50 applicants, we identified 7 after they came and tested that through the process that we gave an offer to. The reason for that is we like for all of our personnel to have an active vested interest in this community. We are and have never lost the fact that we are public service. We are here to serve the citizens, the businesses, and the visitors of this city. We're not here about us, we're here about them. They pay our wages, and they're the reason we're here. Our activities and the needs that are placed upon us grow commensurate with the population growth of this city. So our number of fires increase every year, our number of ambulance calls increase every year, rescue calls increase every year. 7 years ago, we had never even thought about a swiftwater rescue, and now we average about 3 swiftwater rescues a year at least. So in maintaining those standards, when firefighters sign on and they do get that offer, we encourage them to get involved, be part of the team. It's difficult. We've had to expand our living radius to allow our personnel to live up to 70 miles away from the city. That's a tall task because we don't have bad weather days. So you can't call in due to snow. We don't shut down due to bad weather. But in order to meet those needs of filling the slots, and then also allow people to live kind of the lifestyles that they want to live, we have a 70-mile living radius, but we still encourage and work to get all of our personnel plugged in, whether it's in one of the disciplines that we do and taking a specialty in that, or getting involved in the special events. Bentonville is such a active community, especially when we talk special events and things of this nature. You can't expect a fire chief and deputy chiefs to be everywhere all the time. And so we really count on our personnel to step up, and they're given the responsibility and authority to take on a lot of these tasks. Otherwise, we wouldn't be able to go in 8 or 9 directions all at once. So when we hire, we're looking for those type of people, the type A personality that wants to get involved, has a thirst for this type of work. It is a profession. They're going to spend the first 5 to 7 years just training to build the skills to be what considered in the service a competent firefighter, and then move on then. And our primary goal when someone comes on board is we want them to do at least their 28 years and then retire off into the sunset and enjoy the rest of their life. So we address cancer. We've been very proactive in that. We have presumptive cancer law here in the state. That's always been a concern. Firefighters, we obtain physicals every year for them to take that information. And another new program that Captain Gutierrez was involved in was we spent 2 years looking at our fitness. And we have a fitness program we do every every 6 months that every one of us, we participate on. There's no punitive responses to that, but in this group with Vanessa, we have folks that are certified in dietary needs, physical needs, and things of that nature. And so we'll all do it, and they'll record that information. They spent 2 years putting it together, and then they'll send it out privately to each person. And if you want help on how to address a certain area in your health or diet, they'll give you advice and direction in that. So we're trying to be all encompassing, keep our folks engaged, and continually looking for firefighters. We've got positions to fill, and it is a tight market in Northwest Arkansas. Last check at the beginning of the year, there were over between the cities up and down the I-49 corridor, there were close to 89 openings at the time.
I know that I know the testing is serious and very grueling and very physically demanding as well, so that they go through to get the candidates. I wanted to talk a little bit hear a little bit from firefighter Brennan Williams and firefighter Connor Hayes, because you've been through the firefighter development program, I believe. And so wanted to hear your perspective on that program. I believe, Connor, you came to us from the Ignite program that a lot of us has heard about through the school system here. So can each of you give us sort of your experience with that development program?
Go ahead. So I started out I was one of the first ones when we had the firefighter development program. So I got to be one of the first ones to, experience that. And so I'll start from where I didn't know if I wanted to be in this field. I knew I wanted to be in medicine, kind of medical area, I grew up around Bentonville and everything. So, I was always around the fire department and everything. And I pretty much wanted to try it out. I didn't have any credentials. I didn't have anything really. But I was like, I may be interested in being a firefighter, EMT, maybe a paramedic in the future. So with the firefighter developmental program, I tested like anybody else would, and I didn't have any credentials, so I wasn't able to be hired full time. So with that being said, I got on this firefighter developmental program to help me get my foot in the door is a better way to put it. It was able for me to come up here and meet all of these guys and women to to be able to understand and get my foot in the door and train and see if I really enjoyed this job. And doing that allowed me to get the schooling. They helped me through school. They helped me with whatever I needed to become a full-time firefighter. So, the FDP is one of those things that, I think is one of the best things we could do for our department, for people that are either that want to do this for sure and they just don't have the credentials, or just don't, or are not sure, but want to see if maybe this is the job for them. So.
The program, I'm a big believer in sort of apprenticeship programs. I see that program sort of in that same line. So we're very appreciative, and we want anyone interested in out there thinking that this might be a career for them. I think this is a great opportunity, a great program to go through. So certainly contact the fire department if you're listening or know somebody that might be interested in this program. We talked a lot about what the department does, but we have a couple of guests here that are going to be talking about some things that they have experienced with the program. And one of those is we're joined by a photojournalist for more than 30 years here in Northwest Arkansas. And I believe you actually had the experience to put on the suit and go into a fire. And we really wanted you to tell us about that experience, tell the public about that experience, because not a lot of people get to do that. But I think it also, from what I've heard, and I haven't spoken to you directly, so I'm interested to hear your story, but it really gives you a sincere appreciation for what these teams do on a daily basis. So welcome, Mr. Kunston, and tell us about your experience fighting a fire.
Well, thank you, Mayor. First of all, thank you and Chief Boyston for having me alongside your meeting today. I'm quite happy to be here, although most people that know me have heard me say, if you ever see me in front of a camera, something's gone horribly wrong. But I was quite happy when a couple of weeks ago, Chief Boyston contacted me and asked me if I would participate in this, and I'm quite happy to do so. Yes, as you might imagine, over the years, I've been to many accidents and incidents that prompted me to draw near to what firefighters do and what they might go through, as they address these situations on a daily basis. That said, few experiences have impacted me more than one that I'm invited to talk about today. And that was more than 20 years ago. The chief at the time was Chief White, and he contacted us. I was chief at 4029 at that time. And he contacted us and said that there were going to be a few houses burned down. They'd been condemned, and the department was going to use this as a training evolution for their firefighters. And would we like to come and give that some coverage, do a story on it? And of course, that we jumped at that opportunity. In addition to that, it was around Christmas time. It was just before Christmas. And Chief White told me that they were going to set up a Christmas tree in the living room of one of these houses and kind of show what happens. Bad things can happen when presents underneath the tree catch fire, and what happened, how a fire develops under those circumstances. And Chief White said, you're welcome to come up. You can use my turnout suit, my bunker suits and oxygen and helmet and boots and gloves and all that stuff, and get right in there with the firefighters. And I thought, well, that'd be fantastic. What an opportunity. But I have to say that when I was on my way up there with reporter Nancy Scarr at the time. And on my way, I was thinking, that might be a little dramatic. Do I really need to have all this gear on? I could just find a little spot in the corner of the living room and in there with my camera, get a little video, and then we're done. That was my thinking on the way to the event. When I got there, now Chief Boyston greeted me, and he said, and I asked him, I said, he wasn't chief then, I forget, a battalion chief or captain. Do I really need to get into the suit? I mean, isn't that a little dramatic? I can just, be out of the way off to the side and, get some video and we'll be done with it. And now Chief Boyston said, you're getting in the suit. You're wearing everything. Okay, all right. So I put the turnout jacket and pants and helmet and mask and got all this gear on and followed the firefighters into the living room where this was going to take place. And I was meant to stand on the opposite end of the living room behind a firefighter who had taken a knee, and he was going to be the one to put the water to the fire at the appropriate time. So I'm in this mask. I'm a former scuba diver, so it didn't make me uncomfortable to be in the mask, but the suit is heavy. You are breathing, you can hear yourself breathing. Your peripheral vision is not obstructed, but not what you're used to. And so it was all very new kind of experience. And so they put the match to the packages, and the fire started, around the packages, and then started making its way up into the tree. And quite suddenly, and I'm rolling the whole time. Quite suddenly, that tree just went, and as if it was covered in gasoline. And I was thinking to myself at this point, this is really cool. This is some good video here. This is going to be great. Well, the fire continued to develop, going up the corner of the walls and up to the ceiling. And again, I was thinking, oh, this is fantastic. I guess we're about done here. But we weren't done, because the fire reached the ceiling, and you all will correct me if I misspeak, but there was the flashover event happened. And when that happened, the fire had gotten to the ceiling, and then in an instant had crossed the distance between the opposite end of the room and right over the top of me and the firefighter that were at the other end of the living room. It was at this point that I was quite glad that I had all the gear on, because I could feel the heat. It was intense. I could feel the heat even through the protective gear that I had on. And so at that point, the firefighter put the water on the fire. What happens next is everything turns completely white smoke. You can't see your hand in front of you. It's hot. You can't see anything. I kept the camera rolling, and I would see hazy, ghostly images of firefighters moving about, their helmets and stuff. It made for great video, but it was very disorienting. All that to say, I've had few experiences in my line of work, working around law enforcement, fire departments, you name it, that informed my perspective as to what people do than this particular experience right here. I think we all have sort of an abstract notion about what firefighters and law enforcement, folks like that do. Yes, of course, the firefighters, they go into houses, they do this and that and the other thing. We're very happy to have them and all that. But that's kind of an abstract notion that changes if you have the opportunity to participate in an event of this kind. I've always respected our firefighters or law enforcement, folks that are in public service. But I have a special place in my heart for the firefighters who, on a daily basis, present themselves to address potentially deadly situations. And that experience, I've told this story more than once over the years. I make it a point to tell that story to young photographers and reporters that have come into our market, and try to convey, sort of humbly say, a sort of an insider's look at what really goes on when we see our firefighters getting in their trucks, and we see them going down the road, lights and sirens, when they get to a fire and they go toward the danger rather than away. So that was my experience. And I thank you again, Mayor and Chief Boyston, for having me on this morning and talking about this. I have a deep and abiding respect for our firefighters, our firefighting community, and my hat's ever off to all of you.
Thank you so much for sharing that. I do think you definitely, I love hearing testimonials, and you can tell that story so well. And I hope those that are listening, and hopefully this video gets played more in the public as well, that they can hear your story and really start to they always say, put yourself in the other person's shoes. And you literally did that in this instance to really understand what that experience is like when you're really in the midst of sincere danger. So we appreciate you sharing that story. We hope that story can be retold throughout the public to really help the public appreciate our firefighters, and also know when we talk about training and different things and how important that is in the department, that it's because of those experiences and how the fires can spread and stuff, that training is so important. And we're so appreciative of our community supporting things like the new training center. So you'll be happy to know, you said that was about 20 years ago when you.
It's more than 20 years ago.
So we're just now from the public getting our first fire training center. So we will not have to go set houses that get donated to us on fire. It's a clean burn. It's a much better program. So we're finally have the support of the public to put that training center out there. So for our firefighters, and we're very excited about that. So again, thank you for sharing that story. We're going to move to our Fire Marshal, Todd Pierce. He works on a number of programs with our teams in the community and some of our community fire safety programs. So welcome, Todd.
Thank you. Glad to be here.
I think you have a guest with your portion of today's conversation that you'd like to introduce and tell us about a community program that you've done with their organization.
Okay, today here we have Mr. Brent Pettigill. He's with Crystal Bridges, and they've contacted us a few times over the years to come out and do some fire safety training with them, fire extinguisher training. In the past, we've had to do that outside with our old training equipment because it was live fire training. And it tended to be an issue because we would have to cancel due to weather or something like that. Well, now we have a new training device that we use for our fire extinguisher training. It's all digital. We can do it at any time, set it up real easy. It's very user friendly. It can be done inside, as we have a few photos here that show. Weather will not play an issue in this at all. Like I said, it can be set up very quickly. There's other components to it that we can use. If we haven't worked them all out yet, it can be we can make it an extreme elaborate training thing, or just set it up and do the fire extinguisher basic training as we are here. That seemed to go off pretty well.
Brent, talk to us about your experience. I'm going to guess a lot of businesses that I've talked to that have done the program, they use it sort of as a teamwork experience as well. But how was it learning to, did you know how to use, let's tell on yourself, did you know how to use the fire extinguisher without instructions? Or did any of your team members know how to do it without the instructions? Just already had the knowledge.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Well, first of all, I appreciate you guys inviting us to come speak in this coffee talk with the mayor. We've got a great relationship with the Bentonville Fire Department. We've asked them to come support us in several different events and exhibits, and they're always just right there at a moment's notice. Anything we've ever needed, they've come and supported us. So we, first of all, just want to say thank you for all that. So yeah, to answer your question, Mayor, I have had some training with fire extinguishers before. I've been in, security, safety for about 15 years now, and I've come across that training a couple times. And I've had several team members who've been in Crystal Bridges for 10 years, 7, 8 years, and they've come across the training as well. But Todd and his team came over. This was the first time I've ever done the digital training, which was pretty cool. Like Todd was saying, you don't have to worry about the weather. You don't have to find a place outside. It's just if you have a room or a facility, they can set it up real fast and start training team members up. One thing about the training that I really did like, it wasn't just focused on how to use the fire extinguisher. It was focused on where to place yourself. If you can't put yourself between the fire and a safe exit, don't do it. Don't put yourself in harm. If what I've learned over the past and what the fire department reiterated is that if you get harmed trying to put out the fire, then that's going to cause even more problems, and that's going to put someone else in danger to try to save you. And it's just kind of a snowball effect there. They talked about using a buddy system. Always have a buddy with you, kind of while you're focused on the fire, putting it out, have a buddy with you that's focused on the environment around you. So you're not getting in a worse situation. It was excellent training, and it did kind of become competitive with our team members. There's a timer on the training device, and all our team members wanted to beat each other, how fast they could get the simulated fire out. And I think our fastest one was 4.7 seconds. So that was pretty impressive for everybody. So we just want to say again, we really appreciate the training, and thanks to Todd and his team for accommodating us with all that. So thanks a lot.
Happy to do it.
I've heard that those contests can be fairly competitive, although still trying to promote the teamwork aspect of that. So any other specific benefits to your staff or your business that you want to mention about the training?
Sure. Our staff, we do our internal training a lot. We have, what do we do in tornado drills? What do we do, or what do we do during a tornado? What do we do during a fire? We run drills to accommodate staff. We get staff members in all the time from all walks of life. A lot of our work that we do with our front of house staff is very guest services oriented. So anytime we can bring in actual safety training, actual security training, we love to do that. We focus a lot on the guest experience, but we have to remember what our actual purpose is on that floor. And that's when, if one of those alarms go off, every guest in this building is going to look to someone in our security uniform, and they're going to ask the question, what do I do? So our team members have to step into that leadership position. And this type of training just gives them the confidence to do that. Yes, it's a fire extinguisher training, but they're building a skill set. Every time we can get some training in, we're building we're adding to our skill set. We're adding to that toolbox to make us real safety and security professionals. So, not just the actual training, but it gives us the confidence to go do our job, safely and securely.
Captain Pierce, talk to us a little bit if there are people listening that have businesses or want to get more information about the training. How would they go about that?
Absolutely. If they want to get on our the city's website or our Facebook page, or contact us here at the office at the City Hall to set up training or any kind of public education that we can do for them, just contact us at any moment. Request what types of training they want to do, whether it's the fire extinguisher training, just to have public education talks on fire prevention, public safety. We have multiple programs in the city. We do in September, we do BOMA, which is with the Business Owners and Managers Association, where we also do fire extinguisher training. We put together a class here a couple of years ago. I believe you were part of the pilot class that we did for the fire and life safety for business owners. That explains why we have codes, how the codes came about. Most fire codes and everything happened due to tragic events in our nation's history, and we created these codes to make safer businesses and buildings and stuff like that, so we can educate on those things. But yeah, just reach out to us in any social media or phone call, whatever it needs to be. We'll make it work. We'll make it happen. And
you do a lot of training in the classroom as well, or with our public schools. Can you talk a little bit about that and how?
Yes, absolutely. In October every year, we have Fire Prevention Month, and we go out to every grade school, every elementary school in the city of Bentonville. And I believe we have like 9 with another on the way. So we've reached upwards of 10,000 kids last year from grades K through 4 in fire prevention and safety. It touches me when I'm out in public. I notice that at First Fridays, a child will come up and, I remember you came and you told me this. And that lets me know that I'm getting through, or that we are getting through as a department when we talk to it. Because it's not just us in the fire marshal's office. We train all of our firefighters in public education, and talking to people out there and reaching the children is a key thing, because they take it home to their parents. Because we all had fire safety classes in school as well, and how much we forget over the years, or just not just forget, just don't utilize the information anymore. When the children go home and talk to their parents and teach their parents, it's a good thing for them as well. So we go to the high schools. We talk about EMS as a career at the high school. We also do the fire extinguisher program at the high school. So I'm there twice a year. We've done some career fairs at some of the junior highs. So we getting out there and talking to the youth, and not just youth, but starting with them. It's a key component to what we do here.
And I know that the fire department and our emergency responders are also very involved just in general in the community and community events. So where are some places that just people that are out in the community might see you?
Well, they'll see us at First Fridays. The first Friday of every month, we have a booth there. So we're out talking at those events. In September, we also do the Emergency Preparedness Fair. It's over on McCollum, just down from Station 4. We do that every year in September. We get out involved in all aspects of training. If you see us at a grocery store, if you see a fire engine at a grocery store, we encourage you to step up and talk to the guys. Talk to all the firefighters. Anywhere you see us, we're out there. We try to make a strong presence in the community now, and very eager to teach and talk and just help out in any way possible. That's what we do.
So you talked a little bit about the schools and the education piece of it from us being in the community, or the teams, the firefighters and our EMS teams being out there in the schools. I wanted to go back to, I think it's Connor that came through the Ignite program to us. And so Connor, I wanted you to speak about that experience and your experience with the Bentonville Fire Department.
Yeah, so I'm not sure if you're familiar with the Ignite program. So it's essentially allows high school students to get outside of that traditional classroom environment and kind of get a chance to look into a profession that they might be interested in and gain skills and certificates in that area of interest. So I went through the medical program. It allowed me to get my EMT, my first responder, CNA. They have other opportunities for other certificates or other college classes if you're interested in that. And so that's kind of what got me involved and because I know that the Ignite program, specifically the medical, is pretty involved with the Bentonville Fire Department. I know that we have some personnel who are teaching currently, and then we do also help with their training sometimes, their drills. Like I know we have active shooter events, and just allowing me to do that, let me get my EMT through high school and got a jump start on getting into this profession. So I was actually able to start full time, and so it's been great.
So Chief Boyston, I want to go back to you and sort of in some of our conversations, did we miss anything that you wanted to make sure that the community knows about the Bentonville Fire Department?
It's like you pointed out in the beginning, it's not just fire. It's extremely dynamic. We spend a lot of time doing a needs assessment on the community internally, because with the growth that we experience, we're doing everything we can to stay in step with the needs of this community. Case in point is our trail program that is getting up off the ground right now. Bentonville's unique. A lot of communities have mountain bike trails, so to speak. But we've had personnel, reach out to Whistler and Moab and Park City, look at what they do. And we feel like we've got a very advanced program there on locating in bike injuries. Bentonville's unique. While everybody's got trails, we've got over 80 miles of mountain bike trails. That's not counting the hard surface. But the one unique thing about Bentonville versus a lot of the other places, if you're going to do mountain bike riding, you go there with that specific intent. With Bentonville, you can get a bicycle downtown and in 2 minutes be in the middle of those trails. So it provides a unique exposure to us that most communities and areas don't see. And so we're constantly doing those needs assessment with the community, monitoring the activities that go on in the community and trying to meet those needs. Bentonville is a community that is embracing special events. What started out about 5 years ago as a first Friday once a month in a farmer's market is now every weekend, and now we're entering into that envelope where there's 2 or 3 per day on a weekend. So keeping ourselves, delegating all the responsibilities so the groups and the personnel can allow this department to go in multiple directions at one time. And ultimately, on the training, typically they only get one chance to do it right the first time. When we show up on an emergency, that's not the time for us to break out and have training discussions and things of that nature. Our personnel do a really good job of filling in and knowing what to do, knowing when those activities exceed their capabilities, and lean on each other. Mostly what they do is what we classify as low risk, low volume, high risk type of emergencies. And the last thing, that I'd like to throw out is we're the one department when someone has an idea as to a building that they're going to put in the city, and this goes to building and fire as well. You'll work with every city department to get that building or idea up off the ground and get it going. We're the one department that sticks with that structure through its whole life. We maintain and monitor the life safety codes on an annual basis. We're in there inspecting those buildings, and we're responsible for that building until the time, which is a pretty common practice in Bentonville right now, until it's raised and something new goes up, and then we start the process all over again. But we really feel like Bentonville is the best place to be. If you want to be a firefighter, there's no better place than Bentonville. There's opportunities galore. And the sky is the limit for anyone that wants to venture into this profession. So we do thank you for this opportunity to share that with the public, and we hope everyone stays safe.
Well, we hope this conversation's been informative. We've been able to share all of the jobs underneath the fire department. So it's not just responding to fires, although they do that on a daily basis. And as Mr. Cumston was able to give us a testimonial about, it's very serious. It takes a lot of training and knowledge to know how to handle that type of danger. Our EMS, so our paramedics, our EMTs, we run our own ambulance here out of the fire department in the city of Bentonville. So if you're calling 911 and an ambulance is coming to get you in the city, it's going to be members of this team. And then we also talked about our building inspections and our fire safety department that falls under this department as well, and how important the education and how we want to work with businesses and organizations out there to make sure that their buildings are built by code, and that we also want the public to understand why the codes are there. And I think Captain Pierce mentioned, the codes have come into play because of previous instances in our history. And so we've learned from those, and we try to put the best code in play to make sure that we can keep our residents, our citizens safe. So we have about, I think, roughly 8 minutes left. We will take questions if anybody has a question. I like testimonials. I like people to talk about their passion and their job, their passion in their job. So if we have any team members, maybe that would want to tell us about an experience or a memorable experience, I'd love to hear that. So that's my question. If anybody wants to step up and answer that, and if not, we'll take some questions from anyone that's online as well. I'm putting you on the spot.
I can give a testimonial to one thing that got me going in the fire prevention side, which you guys in our service will call the dark side sometimes, because firefighters don't want to prevent them. We like to fight them. So, but I was part of a pretty tragic event here in the city a few years back, as was our Fire Marshal Jake Feemster. And it's one of those things like the chief is talking about. We train and we train and we train to do things right. And sometimes even when you do things right, stuff doesn't turn out the way you want. And I was talking to Jake Feemster, Chief Feemster, one time about fire prevention. And he said, after that event, he realized sometimes you can train and do everything right, and it doesn't go right. And he goes, one of the ways that we can do things is from this side, from the fire prevention side, the educational side, because the firefighters train and can do everything right, but the public, they're not able to do all that. So if we can get out there and help them to prevent some of these situations or getting in those situations before they happen, it's a plus. And that was one thing that kind of opened my eyes to the side when I came over here.
So Battalion Chief Metcalf, I have not heard from you, so I'm going to put you on the spot a little bit. So tell us about kind of what you oversee at the department, and then also you've been involved. We are in the process of a new radio communication system, and you might talk to the public a little bit about that and what that means to the department.
So as far as the battalion chief role at the fire department, it's we have 7 stations, and each station has a captain, and the captain oversees everything that goes on in their station, and those stations are assigned to districts. And then the battalion chief is kind of over the whole ship, so communicates daily with the captains, and then the captains carry out their daily stuff with the shift. And so it's kind of our job as the battalion chief to just, instead of looking at each district, is to look at the whole city as a whole every day of what we got going on, emergencies that are coming in, and just be the oversight for the whole shift. We have 3 of those, so we work a 24-hour shift, just like the rest of our crews do. And then we just basically just kind of the oversight for the whole city. Like Chief Boyston was saying earlier, it's hard for the chief and deputy chief to be everywhere. And so each of these roles have been handed down a little bit so that everybody has a little piece of the pie, and, it helps with our span of control and keeping everybody safe and getting the things accomplished that we've got to do during the day. The radio system, we're been in the process for a couple of years of looking into it and working on it. And the main reason for the new radio system is to get us up to what the federal government is wanting, and that's a P25 radio system, so that everybody in the area can have communications. This came out after 9/11, the World Trade Center is where this really got started. They had so many people coming in from different agencies, and people weren't able to talk to each other on emergency scenes. And so the government looked at it and said, we need to do something to get the communications where everybody is on the same page on this. And so it's been a long process on the federal side. And then we finally have settled on a radio system. It's P25. We'll be able to communicate with all of our neighboring departments. And then, we hope to get 15 to 20 years out of this radio system. And we're really looking forward to getting it going. And we're in the early phases right now of just getting locations figured out. And we've got, max is a 2-year timeline where we should be up and running. We really don't foresee it taking 2 years, but to get everything off the ground and us have it implemented and be ready to go. So.
And the new training center and the radio communications, those are results of a bond extension. And so we want to say thank you to the public for supporting that. 2 things that were definitely needed in the department that we're going to be able to deliver because we have the support of the community. Okay, so if we have anybody online that wants to ask a question, if you just raise your hand, Debbie will let you ask the question. We have about 3 minutes left. I have a question for our photojournalist. So what would you tell someone out there that wanted to experience what you've been, although I'm not sure legal would allow us to do that anymore, to be perfectly honest with you. But I'm curious if you have any thoughts, anybody that would, or maybe anybody that's, considering maybe this might be a career path for them.
Well, I would urge them to call the fire department, pay the fire department a visit. They are a very welcoming community, accessible, and quite willing to talk about what they do and how they do it to anyone that might be interested. They certainly accommodated us in the news media hundreds of times, in my experience over many years, when we've had questions as to what's happened or how do you address this particular sort of problem. I've covered many training evolutions, and I'm sure I can testify that that the Bentonville Fire Department would welcome any inquiry, or visit, perhaps a tour. Just this past week, we have a new reporter. We had occasion to go to Springdale Fire Department. She had never been inside of a fire station. And the firefighters there, the chief and everyone offered a tour, and she got her first tour of a fire station, and it was quite an experience for her. So I would, in short, I urge folks, if they have an interest, to by all means contact the Bentonville Fire Department. They would love to hear from you and help you gain a better understanding of what they do.
Thanks for sharing that. We have about 1 minute left. I wanted to also mention that it's EMS. We did a week in the city. We did a proclamation at City Council last week. This is EMS week. So if you are out and about and you see any of our emergency service responders, if you will say thank you to them, we would appreciate that. And so we're going to end on that note because I'm showing us right at 9 o'clock, and we try to do this and get us in and out on time. We will stay on if there is. I didn't see any hand raises of those that are on online, but we'll stay on for a few minutes here and answer any questions. And I'll stay on with our team and see if anybody else wants to share about a experience with their job or their passion in being a firefighter here in the city of Bentonville. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you.
Thank you all.
Thank you.